Ah, codependency. Codependency is me needing you to be something that you're not so that I'm comfortable.
Okay, so Andy, now we've moved on to chapter 8, and this is about codependency. Can you explain a little bit about what is codependency?
Codependency. Codependency is me needing you to be something that you're not so that I'm comfortable.
So can you give an example to help clarify that?
So an example would be, I'm dealing with a lot of couples, and I don't want to go to specific names, but let's just say the couple that I'm thinking of, Maria and John. Yeah, Maria needs John to be far more loving than he is. And so Maria is constantly blaming John for not being more loving. She needs him to be more loving. So what happens is the dynamic is she blames and shames and makes him feel very bad about who he is. And in the end, what's going on is that he feels the burden of that. So he basically is trying to satisfy her, but in a way it's not coming from him. It's not his, say, predisposition. So the process looks something like this, is that she starts getting angry and frustrated and saying, we need outside help. I need someone to come in to help me so that you can be far more loving to me. And her belief or her vision is, I can make him loving. I can make him loving if I just work hard enough. And the codependency comes in when he's not showing up, and then she's blaming him over and over again for not being the person that she needs him to be.
So the codependency, do you see it as more of a problem for her or him or both?
It's funny, I see it as a problem for her. Because in a way, he would say, hey, I love you, I'm happy, this is who I am, accept me for who I am. Now, it's a problem for both of them, obviously, because as soon as she says it's not acceptable, then he has to address it so that they have the opportunity to come together. But in a way, she's the one that has expectations of him in this instance, and those expectations aren't being fulfilled by him, which means she needs him to be something he's not so that she can be comfortable.
Okay. So in this case, she's not getting, whether it's full self-expression, or she's not getting happiness, or she's not getting whatever.
Yeah.
Because of something outside of herself, from this other person or this other thing.
Yeah. And let's say there's a lot of people in similar relationships would say, oh, I love this man for what he is. I don't need him to be any different. He's just wonderful. And that's where each party gets to be fully them, and they can be fully themselves. So there's no one needing them to be different so that they're at peace with themselves. You know, and I'll see this often show up in a more masculine and a feminine dynamic. It doesn't need to be man or woman. Either party can have more of an opinion. And I've kind of seen it shown up where the one that has more of a stronger nature, let's say, when the relationship starts out, it's great. You know, everyone's like, oh, they're complimenting one another. But then at some point, like hopefully every good relationship, people evolve. And what I've often seen is the one that had more of the feminine traits, the one that was more submissive in the relationship, all of a sudden wants to become stronger, and this dynamic doesn't work anymore. And it's interesting dynamic because as this one grows, you would almost want to from the more masculine to support it, to nurture it. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way often. It's more like the trying to nurture becomes more of like a dominant energy and not a nurturing, loving energy, which worked for the first 3 to 5 years, but it doesn't work when people are changing their roles. Yeah.
So do you see, you know, I'm thinking to Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying,
Yeah.
where the number one regret is people looking back on their lives and saying they wish they would have been who they were and not been who somebody else wanted them to be.
Yeah.
And the gravity of it being the number one regret of people on their deathbeds is profound.
Yeah.
So it seems that this getting beyond a codependency and recognizing it is very important. How do you see this exercise or helping out to get through that?
Yes, this was a nasty exercise I put in, and I did it with an intention. What this exercise was about was creating situations and then having possible reactions to the situations. And what I wanted to show was that any time you need the situation to be different, there's some element of codependency in it. And that I really wanted everyone to feel that, because I almost wanted people to be shocked, like, hold on, that means I'm codependent? Actually not. And a lot of those answers, I would behave the same way. But I didn't want anyone not to say, okay, there's an element of me needing an outcome or needing something to be different than what it actually is. Instead of, I give you a birthday gift and you say, what is this for junk? And then you'd say, oh, just lovingly laughing, like, oh, isn't that wonderful? Right? Just celebrating it, instead of like, oh, now I have to shoulder the responsibility for the fact you didn't feel good about my gift, and maybe carry that home with me, or whatever the negative feeling I might take from that. So the whole idea is really, you get to be you and I get to be me, and then we'll see if we really want to be together. But a lot of people say, well, if I'm going to be me, I got to adjust me so that it's going to work with you. And that for me it works. A lot of people live that way. But in my desire for staying in connection, we have to be okay with the fact that it might not work. If I really show up as I fully am, you may not be able to meet me there. And that's okay. And as the book you mentioned with the number one regret, of course, when people aren't willing or able or capable of stepping into that vulnerability of being who they are, for fear of the judgment or whatever might come upon them, then they'll always feel that there's some part of them that hasn't fully been lived. So yeah, for me, the codependency would almost be freeing yourself of the need to satisfy anybody else.
So it's very interesting, your wording there,
Yeah.
because the scientists would say that we are born to be social. Yeah. We need other people, and they go as far to say, as people evolved, we needed other people to get the basic things like food. Like if you're chasing down a gazelle out in the Serengeti, if there's only one of you and one gazelle, there's likely to be two dead animals in the woods. So you need people together, you need a group. And we have a tendency to have that such strong desire to connect with somebody, and are willing to give up ourselves to have that connection. Yeah. And what you're saying is, no, it's not bad to want that. It's natural to want that. It's just, you have to look at where the other person is capable of going, and understand that this particular connection may not allow you to be fully expressed in who you are, and that's got to be okay. Yeah. You're more evaluating where you are in that space, and knowing that whether something's going to work in the way you would like, or to find a way to detach yourself so that you can still be you, and that person can still be them, and you maybe maintain that relationship, and maybe not. Mm. But it's more about that discovery of where you are in that place, and accepting of it and understanding that state. Is that?
Yeah, that would be it. And I would say, call it, if I use like a BA before Andy and an AA after Andy, would mean the moment when I said, it's okay if people don't like you. It's okay if people don't understand you. And in that way, I wasn't dependent on another, say, less than before. It would be hard to say not at all, because I still keep my pants on in public, and I still, I still try to keep social norms, but I do it kind of with a half smirk. There's a degree to which I know I can fully love and embrace who I am, and some people aren't going to like it, and that's okay. Yeah.
Great. Thanks.